One of my favorite things about this vehicle is the total pure utility of it. The only creature comforts in this entire car, other than a heater, are the fact that the seats are padded. There's no insulation, there's no gizmos, there's just pure utility, pure four-wheel drive. It's easy to work on. I mean, the hood folds all the way up. You've got the entire engine bay right there. Everything is in a place that makes sense. I enjoy it. It's one of those vehicles too where they don't hide everything in plastic. You'll see very little plastic on this vehicle. You see a lot of exposed welds, which you don't see on anything anymore. The only soft thing in it's the upholstery. They weren't meant to be cutesy poo. They were, or mass produced, I don't think either. I mean, I think these things are pretty intense to make. But, you know, they're designed to last. They're designed to be rugged. My name's Josh Commons, and I drive a 1976 Toyota FJ40. Toyota started building these things right around World War II under the direction of the U.S. military to kind of be similar to their Jeeps. And then I believe they just kind of ran with it from there. Mountain Express classified section in 1992, and it was a good deal, and I'd always wanted one. Believe it or not, it was $4,000, and I got a loan through my insurance company. I'm the third owner, I believe. The guy I bought it from had it briefly, and he bought it from an airplane mechanic who rebuilt the entire engine and did a lot of nice work on it. I owned it for 10 years straight, and then I sold it to my sister, and they spent a lot of money buffing it out. They repainted it, reupholstered it, repaired all the rust, and then they sold it to my mom and dad, who spent a bunch more money on it and fuel injected it, put power steering on it, and then they lost interest. It just sat there under a tree. One day they just asked me if I wanted it back, and so I finished it off, got it back on the road, and here we are. Believe it or not, I had a tiny Matchbox car of this exact vehicle, same year, same color, when I was about 4, and I still have it. So that's one thing that attracted me to these. I've always been a little bit of a gearhead, and this thing's only 3 years younger than I am. These were new cars back then, and I liked them back then. Love them now. I think an FJ40 is more appealing because it's a 2-door removable hardtop. The front end on these things is just gorgeous. It's totally iconic. The shape, the fenders, the hood, the louvers. It's a fun car. They can get in places that the luxury wagons can't get. It's a true off-roader. It's not a mall cruiser. When I make modifications to this thing, I make a real effort to make sure that I don't modify it to the point where it's not stock. But at the same time, I'll do upgrades in order to make it perform a little bit better. Like the power steering isn't stock. They never came with it, but it's a serious upgrade. I like to keep it within the family of stock and original, so it still appears to be, you know, a Land Cruiser. It's not jacked up real tall. It doesn't have a V8 in it. Yeah, you kind of own it after a while, you know. I mean, I redid the brakes on this vehicle when I was in my early 20s, and then I redid them again recently. So I've owned it long enough to go full cycle to where the brakes and the wheel cylinders wore out and needed to be rebuilt. And, you know, you turn in the same screw you turned 20 years ago. It's kind of special. We're like 8,000 feet up in the Boulder Mountains at a mining ghost town called Boulder City. We come up here at least once a year. You know, coming up here is definitely a challenge, and not many vehicles can do it. One of the beauties of having a vehicle like this, and it's just absolutely beautiful. My friend JW and I come up here every year just as a challenge, and it's just kind of tradition. So doing trails like this, they're difficult. I mean, I see them as a puzzle. You have to find your line, you have to make sure that you're not tearing stuff up. A vehicle like this, you have a lot of confidence in, you know it's gonna make it. and you know that when you do hit something hard, you're not really going to screw much up, whereas your modern cars, they're just not built for it. I push it a little bit. I don't want to severely damage it. I mean, I'll damage it a little bit. I don't have a problem scratching it up, a little dents here and there. I don't mind getting it dirty, but because it's getting harder and harder to find parts, you know, there's certain things that I definitely take care of. And you just have to get creative when there are no parts. You know, you either have to find somebody who's going to make them or make them yourself. This is a special car. I mean, when you get in, it has a certain smell. I've had it for so long. I've had it longer than any other car I've ever owned. There's all kinds of nostalgia, you know, it brings me back to college days driving across the eastern Oregon and to Eugene in the freezing winter and having to scrape the ice off the windshield. It does bring up some emotions. It's a special car. In some of this really technical off-road, you get a combination of anxiety and exhilaration and, you know, adrenaline. It's a little bit scary sometimes. Put yourself in awkward situations, but it's really fun. It's really rewarding. I don't see these as disposable. I see them as infinitely rebuildable. You don't see that much anymore. Part of it's because of the following. People love these things, but they're built tougher than anything I've ever experienced. You can literally walk around on the hood without denting it. They're designed to last, they're designed to get punished, they're designed to stuff it into a tree if you need to get around that big rock. My mom always says, oh, that's such a cute car. That's one of the things she likes to say, but it's part of the family. I don't plan on ever selling this car. Now that I got it back, I left it for a while. I felt like I made a mistake when I sold it, and I got it back, and I don't see any reason to sell it. I'd love my kids to be able to drive it one day. It's definitely an heirloom now, and I thought I'd lost it for good, and getting passed around the family and coming back. It just seems like part of me. I get a kick out of jumping in this thing and driving around. I enjoy driving it, and I feel good every time I get in it.